So, Dr. Emily, tell me a little bit about what you do and your background. It sounds like you have quite the extensive background.
Sure. Well, I am the founder and director of EBL Coaching, which is a tutoring program where we specialize in providing one-on-one tutoring to students who have specialized learning needs, including students with learning disability, with ADHD, with executive functioning challenges, and really just kids who are struggling in school with a skill set or a set of skills. Just to date back a little bit, though, I actually grew up in the field of special education. My mother was the founder of a school for students with learning disabilities down in South Florida, which is where I grew up. So I feel like it's in my blood a little bit. I really grew up working at her school, being trained in different methodologies. And then, though, decided to carve my own path. I went to Brown University as an undergraduate. I then received my master's degree in special education and later my doctorate degree in education. And after doing a few years of finance, I just started to organically and slowly build my tutoring business into what it is today.
Wow, that's amazing. So, what ages do you generally work with, or is it just all ages?
We work with kids as young as the pre-K level. So age 3.5 is typically where we start. And then we go all the way up through the adult level. So it's really just such a nice wide range of students that we're able to help.
It's incredible. And what would you say was the biggest challenge of your career and getting into this field?
Well, for me, there's been a lot of challenges along the road, I think, like growing any business. I think for me, though, growing it very sort of organically was really the ticket for me and a way for me to overcome a lot of challenges that I think many people face in terms of needing a lot of capital, needing a lot of money in order to go to the next level. So I remember when I first started out, I really began my tutoring business in my tiny New York City apartment, which was in Union Square. And I remember at the time I used to have families who I really knew nothing about. They found me, a lot of them through ads or some through referrals, and they would show up in my apartment. They'd spend time in my space. I would evaluate the student in my apartment. And it really got to a point where there was just too much of a blur between my personal life and my work life. And I just felt that I needed my own space. So that was when I opened my first office, which was on the Upper East Side. It was this tiny little office, and then eventually I opened a bigger office, another big one, and then ended up where I am now, which is a larger learning center.
Wow. And how do you feel about having a learning center? What is the biggest impact you think you had on these kids?
Well, I think that when in the very beginning when I started out, I was personally working myself with students one-on-one, and it really got to a point where my time was kind of maxed out in that there were only so many kids that I personally could help myself on my own. And then what I realized is that as I started to bring on additional people and expand our areas of specialty and work in different skill areas, that we were able to help so many more kids than I was able to help on my own. So really over the years since I officially started in 2004, we've been able to help thousands of kids of all different age levels, all different skill areas to really build self-confidence and achieve academic success. And it's just such a great feeling because I still feel like I have a role in each one of these kids' lives, even though I'm not personally tutoring them, just able to really have such a big impact on their lives.
It's incredible. And where do you want to take your business next? So what's the next level for you?
Well, it's been such an evolution since COVID happened. Since COVID, developed an amazing online learning platform, which we still do a lot of one-on-one tutoring, but we now have this new modality. It's not so new anymore for providing tutoring, which is on that virtual basis. And what that's allowed us to do is to expand nationally and internationally and help kids from so many other parts of the country and parts of the world that we weren't able to do so. So we have great technology, we have great materials and resources that we're able to utilize in order to do that. And I think I'd love to continue expanding in that way and really be able to help kids, not just in the New York, New Jersey area, but really nationwide and worldwide.
That would be incredible. It's amazing what this online thing had did. Even though COVID was a horrible time, it was a blessing because now like people like you could help so many other people.
Definitely. It was a real silver lining of COVID, I will say that.
Yeah. Now, do you do this on your own or do you have a staff? How does that work?
I do have staff. So our staff is primarily based in New York City. We have a full-time staff that does a lot of the behind the scenes work. There's, as I'm sure you can imagine, there's so much that goes on behind the scenes once we've made the match between the tutor and the student, and the tutoring itself has started, just in terms of managing scheduling, managing payroll, managing payments from families and reaching out to them, creating progress reports. There's so many other elements that go on behind the scene, but we have a fantastic team on board that helps us with all of that.
Yeah. And how do you choose your team? Is it like a typical job interview? Do they have to have a teaching background or is it just someone that's truly interested in helping people?
They do have to have a teaching background. Most of our instructors actually have master's degrees in education. Some have extensive experience teaching and or tutoring, but don't necessarily have a master's degree. But they're really highly qualified, highly trained, and it's such an amazing team of tutors that we have.
And what advice would you give to people that want to be in this kind of business?
Well, I think that in this business, I think you have to really be passionate about helping kids. And I think even though it's always nice to make money, it's nice to grow a business. I think that if that message comes forward first, it's really just a turnoff to a lot of people. I think first and foremost, it has to be about helping the child, coming up with a plan of action specific to that child, making sure the child is progressing. And when you figure out that formula, then everything else really starts to fill in. The payment, the money, all the other logistics kind of fall into place. So it really has to be the primary message of helping the child and really wanting to make a difference for that student.
Yeah, and what was the student that made the biggest difference in your life? I know you can't give too much away, but was there a particular student or situation that had the biggest impact on your career?
You know, it's funny. There was one of my very first students that I personally started working with. This was probably in 2001 or 2002. He was a little boy. He was in kindergarten at the time. I'm going to age myself. He was dyslexic and he had ADHD. He struggled so much in school across the board. And not that long ago, his mother actually reached out to me and let me know that not only did he graduate college, he went to graduate school and he's now working as an engineer. So that was just music to my ears. And it made me feel so good to know that maybe what I did with him had some impact on him in his early years of life that has helped him lead to this wonderful career.
That's incredible. And I'm sure he's the best staying engineer our world has ever seen. Thanks to
Absolutely.
you. That's amazing.
Well, and sometimes when these students have to overcome obstacles, I find at such a young age, it really sets them up for life because so many successful kids who do well in school, they don't really have to face these obstacles until they're adults. And so I think that there are advantages to going through these struggles when you're a younger child.
I think so too. I mean, and people like you, I don't know where we would be without people like you.
Thank you.
No,
Comes from a real passion.
that's incredible. And yeah, so if you weren't doing this type of work, what kind of work do you think you would be doing? Or was your passion always in teaching and helping?
That's a great question. So before I kind of pivoted back into teaching, I actually did 2 years of finance, which feels like the total opposite career. I did 1 year of investment banking at Lehman Brothers back when Lehman Brothers existed. And then I worked for 1 year doing private wealth management. And I think I quickly learned that the finance and that field wasn't necessarily for me. But what I did learn were so many valuable tools that have helped me in growing a business. How to talk to clients, how to talk about money and not be afraid of talking about money, how to manage spreadsheets and do calculations, and all of these skills that you wouldn't necessarily think would play a role in an education business, but it really does. And even though that was only 2 years of my life, it's something that I've carried with me through my entire career and something that to this day I still use and I still value. So it's hard for me to know where I would be. I think I would probably be in some area within the field of helping people, specifically within the field of education, because it's just such a wonderful way to help so many people coming from really one person.
That's incredible. And you are definitely one of the unsung heroes of the world. And where can we follow your business and your career because you're just so incredible. I think you're going to inspire so many people.
Thank you so much. Well, we have a website, which is eblcoaching.com. There's lots of info on our website. I write a lot of blogs, different articles. I've written a series of books, so there's a lot of information about that as well. And then EBL Coaching also has pages on both Instagram and Facebook. And then I have a LinkedIn profile as well.
That's beautiful. Well, thank you so much, not only for speaking to me today, but thank you so much for inspiring the youth of our nation and world, really.
Thank you so much for those kind words. And it's really been such a pleasure.
Likewise, we'll talk again soon.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.